Good morning, everyone. We've survived a number of things. We survived the off season, and we're working on surviving. You know, oh, I hate the West Coast games. Oh my God! Thank somebody. I think somebody on Twitter last night said, "Thank God Oklahoma State didn't go to the Pac-12." What was that back in whenever that was? That's just I couldn't do that. Now, I'm on the East Coast. All right. I mean, it'd be bad enough with the 2 hour difference on the in Central Time, where so many of you are. But oh Lord, oh Pete, the West Coast and the East Coast, that was tough. It was about a little after 2 o'clock when the game actually ended. By the time I settled down with the bed, it was closer to 2:30, and of course, my internal alarm clock, boop, wide awake. I say wide awake, but I was awake at like 7 o'clock, and there really wasn't any going back to sleep. So anyway, let's just make sure. Yeah, you guys can hear me. Got some sound on the mics there. All right, so a lot of things. I think a lot of things to unpack. Even though it was Oklahoma State, or even though it was Oregon State, right? A lot of things to unpack. Let's start with just overall. Good start on the road. A lot of new, right? You got a new offensive coordinator. I'm not so much worried about Charles Dickey. He's been a D1 O-line coach for a long time and successful. So wasn't too worried about him. I was really, really fascinated to see if we got any obvious wrinkles from Sean Gleason, and see how the QB thing shook out, right? And Spencer Sanders started. We'll talk more about him in a little bit, but overall, I thought the offense that looked different to me than when Yurcich took over. And Gundy, there was Barry Trammell did a story went around on Twitter yesterday where Gundy alluded to that he felt far more comfortable with Gleason going, his first Power 5 D1, coordinator position, his first game, than he did about Yurcich. Now, some of that I could definitely chalk up to, Gleason, the gap between, Princeton and going Power 5 is not the gap you're talking about, going from Shippensburg State to Power 5. So that was a much larger gap for Yurcich to bridge than it was for Gleason. So I think, and some of that's understanding the talent level, right? The things you could do at Shippensburg State that look nice and, or maybe a little innovative, don't work at the Power 5 level because there's too many good athletes. Okay. So Gleason, I think, already had a little bit of a grasp on that, right? Obviously, get away with stuff in the Ivy League, probably you're not going to get away with in Power 5, but it's a lot closer. The gap is so much closer that it wasn't a big leap for Gleason to grasp that, right? But I think, just from a general offensive standpoint, I think you see what the MO of this team is going to be. The MO of this team is going to be, we're going to hit you with the run game, including a running quarterback, and we're going to not just toss in the occasional pass. I mean, this is not like, we're not talking like Georgia Tech that's going to run triple option all the damn time, or Army or even Navy. They're going to pass the ball. I mean, the Oklahoma State's going to pass the ball. Oklahoma State will pass the ball 20 plus times a game. All right. That's plenty of passing if you're effective. And boy, again, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I was good with what we saw out of the offense. First game on the road, I said in my picks from Joe's kind of preview of the Big 12 weekend that I didn't think I wasn't concerned about Oklahoma State. I know Coach Huddleston mentioned this. I wasn't concerned about Oklahoma State going out there. First game, West Coast late game, only because you have new starting QBs. They're going to have full attention. Those guys aren't going to be asleep. New offensive coordinator, he's not going to be asleep at the wheel. It's not like you had like if you'd had say 2 seasons ago, right? Mason Rudolph led Oklahoma State going out there. A lot of veterans. They could have gone out there and gone completely to sleep. That you could see happening. I didn't think this crew was going to go out there and be completely asleep. So again, offensively, I was cool with what I saw. I was intrigued. I'm excited. I think the offense, definitely has the potential to be extremely productive. So let's not worry about that. Now, you will temper that with that's a bad Oregon State defense. Bad. We said that. People started trying to talk stuff up. They were bad. They are bad. They're going to continue to be bad. So you really okay. So here we go. Here's a little personal life business right here. And I'm going to have to stall everybody because the wife is running errands and she can't do something on her own. So she needs to call and ask a question. Okay. So here we go. We're going to call.
Hi, this is Lisa. Leave a message.
There we go. Now this is she's trying now to call the house because I didn't pick up on my cell phone. Okay. Here we go.
I was looking to ask if we need batteries.
No, we don't need batteries.
We don't need AA batteries?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. There you go. She's at Costco. So got to ask those questions, right? Got to bulk up on stuff. Anyway, so look, horrible Oregon State defense. We got out of Oregon State's defense exactly what we expected. Oklahoma State almost over 350 yards rushing, a 200-yard rusher, a 100-yard rusher. That's what we expected from the, what was it, like bottom 5? Maybe it was next to worst defense in D1 rush defense. So, take some of this with a grain of salt. Offensive line, I'll talk more about it later. Looked improved, but again, grain of salt. Okay. So defense, I'll talk more about it later, but nope. Jim Knowles better figure something out because I'll tell you right now, if we get a continuation of what we saw last night, which is a continuation of last season, I'm done. That experiment's done. You got to get somebody else. I mean, no, that was just a no. Now, granted, Oregon State's offense isn't, it's not like you're not talking about Kansas here. All right. There is some talent. Hodgins, man, that guy's good. Quarterback could throw the ball around a little bit. Okay. Running back's decent. Offensive line's not non-existent. So, their offense put up numbers last year and they've got returning people. Okay. And they were missing one of their key wide receivers too. So anyway, look, their offense is capable of putting points on the board. All right. So we'll give Knowles a little, just an inkling of a pass right there. First game, right? Okay, fine, but no, that was there. There'll be a couple of things I'm going to talk about from my perspective, in my amateur opinion, that were not acceptable to me. It's like that's the kind of stuff you can't have happen. Okay, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, look, good win. Got your sea legs on you now. You got a game to get everybody some reps next week with McNeese State. So I think really what you're looking at is get out of these first. You're really looking to get out of these first 2 games, injury-free, healthy going into that Tulsa game. Michigan State's offense, not dynamic. Tulsa definitely held their own defensively in that game for the most part. So I think that's kind of an interesting game. That'll be an interesting game pre-Texas. If you're like thinking ahead, that kind of stuff. That to me is a far more worrisome game, if you're going to use worrisome, far more worrisome game than Oregon State was. All right. Because I don't have any hesitation saying that Tulsa is probably a better team overall than Oregon State. Their defense is definitely going to be better. So good start. I think off on the right foot here. So now let's start breaking some stuff down. How about that debut for Spencer Sanders? First quarter, I think that was intentional. I think the idea there was let's lean on the offensive line and Chuba Hubbard. Let Spencer get his, get used to game speed. Gundy talks about it all the time. And they started him out with good throws, easy throws to complete. Somebody mentioned during the game, but as he got going during the game, let me tell you something, that kid can throw the rock. Okay. I mean, we talk about this in different sports, basketball, football, whatever. You talk about how things look, things looking different. I'd say this without hesitation, right? A 1-game sample, right? Maybe he was just super on point last night and he's going to come back down off of that. But I can only recall 4, 5. He had 5 incompletions. I think he had 5 incompletions, right? I think he was like, what was he, was he 19 to 24? Hang on here now. We have to look. He was, let's see here. Scores, box score. Box score. He was 19 of 24. Now, I only remember, I think it's 3 actual incompletions, and the other 2 I remember resulted in pass interference. So those don't count as incompletions, right? I don't remember 3 of his incompletions. 2 of them, it's just because the receiver couldn't get his Wallace just couldn't get his get possession and feet down in bounds, foot in bounds. But the ball on those 2 plays was exactly where it was supposed to be. So I remember 1 incompletion and it was a throwaway. Okay, now I'm sure there were others. Obviously, there were 5. So I only remember 1 that it was a throwaway. And when I walk out of that game going, I remember him completely throwing the ball away, missing a receiver once. Okay. Looks like every other memory I have of him, even the ones that were incomplete to Wallace, those balls were on the money. He had 1 high ball he threw to Wallace that Wallace scored on the outside on that little screen play. Really well-designed play. Well coached, well designed. He threw a high ball there, but a catchable ball. Well, not too much, juice on it. But he threw with incredible accuracy. And I tweeted my work colleague, on Twitter. He's I think a total second is his actual handle, but at Geronimo Coates, Dalton Coates, Dallas area resident. And we were texting during the game, and I commented that his accuracy was Whedon-esque, right? Whedon threw darts. He threw bullets, right? A lot of that short ding, 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 ding passing game. I mean, anything Whedon threw was a bullet for the most part. Sanders, there's some air under his passes, okay? But it's a pretty ball, almost like a Warren Moon type of a ball, right? Everything was nice little pretty spiral, smooth spiral. He has a smooth motion, but classic motion, and everything was, I mean, of the 19 completions, That one ball to Wallace that he scored on, that was the only one that I saw that was like, okay, you got a good receiver's got to make that play. It was catchable, but it was high. Everything else on the friggin' money. Oh, one of the other incompletions he threw was to Johnson on the deep ball that Johnson should have caught. Not an easy catch, mind you, running full speed over your shoulder, that kind of thing. And it's over your opposite shoulder, right? You're like this, ball's coming over the outside versus the ball coming to the inside. But and that ball went right through his hands, period. So I cannot say enough about his ability to throw the ball, at least in this one game, right? If that is a sign of things to come, good God. And to go along with that, somebody said that, we used to complain about Mason Rudolph going through his, not going through his progressions. Well, let me tell you something. He didn't have to go through his progressions. Okay. He never threw the ball into coverage. He never threw the ball into bad coverage. Okay. Never. Not once did he throw the ball into crap coverage. All right. Now, okay. The one pass interference against Stoner, which was pretty, that was he threw that ball up, but it wasn't getting intercepted. It was a bit of a throwaway. Okay. But I mean, he didn't need to go through his progressions. Didn't need to. He was hitting open guys with great passes. I mean, what do you want? This is his first game. Don't worry about him going through progressions. He'll go through progressions. Don't sweat it. His ability to throw the ball on the run, we saw that a couple times. The mobility, fantastic. This dude is a mobile guy, but he's going to throw the ball. Okay. He has he seemed like he had a really good sense, other than there was one play I noticed. It was in the second half, I think, where he rolled out and he ended up scrambling and got close to a first down. And when he started to run, you look up and I believe it was Stoner was wide open. So he's got to have his head up in that moment better. But he'll get there. That kid will get there. You can see that kid is different. Okay. We're talking a redshirt freshman. Okay. That kid is different. Okay. He looks different than the other kids. He looks different than Mason Rudolph looked the first time he started a game. He looks different. Yeah. I remember the first time Zach Robinson, geez, oh Pete. Zach Robinson started. I remember when he started. Spencer Sanders looked way more in control than either one of those guys. Okay. Way better off than Taylor Cornelius's, first real start. Against quality opponent. Okay. Quality opponent, but I mean, a D1 Power 5 opponent. So and his legs, I thought that was, to some extent, a wickedly quiet 109 yards rushing, right? He had the one play where he almost blew it, right? Almost went to the house, but he stepped out of bounds. It was almost always productive. I'd say dang near every time he took his legs, it was productive. Could have been better, like the play with Stoner where he was wide open after he started running, sure. But they're going to use that, and you could see the makings last night. You know how people talked about Gleason's, use of the pop pass? Oh, that's getting set up. That was being set up last night. They won't use it till they get into Big 12 play, I don't think. But that's being set up. That is being set up. There's so many. That's being set up. So great. I thought great start out of the gate for Spencer Sanders. Let's hope that wasn't kind of a one game. He was totally on point. Now he's going to start to go downhill. And, let's hope Drew Brown, is a good soldier and sticks out the season, right? You wouldn't want him, a couple games in here to, 4 or 5 games in, 6 games in to say, I'm transferring. Okay. And now your backup situation becomes a little iffy. But anyway, so good start for Spencer Sanders. Excited. It was great. He's going to obviously probably be getting, the vast majority of the snaps of the ones now, and that's good. Chuba Hubbard. Okay. This was kind of I would say a blessing and a curse here. Chuba Hubbard, I'm going to go with what some people have said. He's better than Justice Hill. Faster. I think he's got almost as good of a jump cut. Okay. I mean, that was Justice's thing, but he's got a pretty good cutback move on him. He's got a very unique running style. I struggle to find a comp for him, okay, as a running style for a guy with that speed, because you almost want to go back to like a Marcus Allen or a Tony Dorsett style of a guy. He's a bit of a loper, okay? You don't see him, he looks like he's trotting all the time, right? And for the first time that I can recall, there was the play that got called back with the holding last night, okay, where he went in for the touchdown. That was the first time I'd seen him go into fifth gear. He put on the turbo for maybe 10 yards just to get past a guy. But when he went through that hole on that 52, 53 yard TD run, I mean, he was loping. He was loping. That was like a nice, comfortable gallop, right? There was no effort to that. He's patient, but when he decides to go, he's got a pretty good, for a guy who lopes, he's got a good quick first step. Like he gets up to a usable, productive speed within a step or two, which is impressive. So it's a unique mix, I think, for a guy who, you think fast, you think Tyreek Hill, right? He's just boom, he's gone. That's it. He's got that speed, right? He's got a little bit of a trot, but the minute he has the chance to go, he goes full speed. Chuba, it's like he only goes full speed when he absolutely has to go full speed, right? Everything else he's got that trot kind of gallop pace to him. So, and he's physical. He's running up the middle. The only really hit he took was on his own when he tried to jump over the dude. It's like, guys, quit jumping over people. And he took kind of a shot to the ground, but otherwise it was more like he's kind of getting wrapped up type of tackles and hits. He's not getting like drilled. That's fantastic. And the curse of that is the drop off to your backup running back, humongous. The difference between Chuba Hubbard and LD Brown, God bless LD Brown. He's working hard. He's a soldier. Gundy trusts him, which is a big deal. Okay, because he's asking him just to spell a guy for a little bit. So the key there is just don't F up, right? Don't drop the ball. Don't put it on the ground. Don't do stupid stuff. And so Gundy trusts him. But the drop off there is gargantuan, right? God forbid something happened to Chuba, then I think at that point you would start to see Gundy maybe go into the herd for one of those guys that came in. Cooper, I don't know Cooper from Madill, Oklahoma, never heard of him. I thought he looked a little shiftier than Brown late in the game anyway. But Brown made a good run on the goal line, good physical run. Give him that. But man, Chuba goes away, explosiveness, bye-bye. That was huge. But just loved it. God, you couldn't have had did exactly what a lot of people expected. 200, 2 bills plus rushing against one of the worst rushing defenses in D1 last year. Wide receivers. Oh my God. Tylan Wallace looked great. He's got to do better though on the one catch going out of the back of the end zone. Okay, fine. That was Sanders threw it like at the. It's almost like I would want Wallace, instead of running through that, to kind of dive through and drag your feet type of a thing. You know what I'm talking about, as opposed to trying to run that catch out, because his lead foot's what got him. Whereas if right at the last moment you dragged both feet and stretched out to catch that, that's a touchdown. If he holds on to it when he falls. The other one was the one that went out of bounds over by the pylon inside the end zone. And again, same thing. He's got to work on his how he's aware of where his feet are, right? That was another one. Should have been a TD. But he's gathering his feet to land versus I need to get my feet in and I'm going to hit the ground, right? So as a wide receiver, especially, you're going to go to the NFL, your concern's got to be, I'm getting my feet down, even if it means I'm going to hit the ground type of thing. Okay. So he's got to work on that. But outside of that, dude was dominant in his moments. The catch on the high ball he made on that screen, and then the run for the TD, that was great. So he's fine. McCray, CJ Moore, Wolf, Johnson was open. He should have caught that ball. I mean, that kid he beat somebody bad there. And of course, Sanders hit him right in stride. But what a wealth of talent. Casey Dunn. I mean, I dread the day he leaves. He's gonna leave. Dread the day he leaves. He's gonna leave. Right? I mean, how about and speaking of Casey Dunn, how about the whole elevator incident where the coaches are like, they came down, I think it was, when they came down because they were having communication issues. And then as they're going, they were trying to, I think, go back up, and they got stuck in the elevator. And Casey Dunn called that series, and OSU goes down and scores. I mean, Oklahoma State is going to have to make an effort to keep Casey Dunn. I think, they upped his money this year, gave him title, but I think it's going to be real. If this wide receiver core goes out and does it again, like you end up with another Biletnikoff finalist, which the odds are you're going to. I'd be shocked if he's back, unless you really jack up money or something. I mean, I don't know, because that dude's a quality dude, and he's going to be he's got head coach written on him. Casey Dunn does. He's got head coach written on him, and he'll go someplace. He'll end up someplace and be an OC, unless something weird happens and Gleason suddenly jets after this season. Then I would hire within. I would take him as the OC. I would have no problem with that. But I think he'll go be an OC somewhere, and if he has some success, he'll go right to being a head coach. He could. Depending on circumstances, go straight to being a head coach if that's what he wants. If that's really kind of what his thing is. But I think they're going to have a hard time keeping him after this year if things continue. And let's say you have another Biletnikoff finalist, or you win it again, then I think you're gonna have a really hard time keeping him from a really top flight program, money wise. If that's what he wants to do. Offensive line. I'm going to throw the Cowboy backs in on this. All right, too. The blocking schemes were drastically different. The offensive line, I didn't feel like was overwhelmingly dominant. Okay, somebody's, the offensive line was dominant. The offensive line was not dominant in the fact that they were blowing people off the ball. They weren't doing that. All right. They weren't just mowing, not like OSU was running it straight down Oregon State's throat. OSU depended a lot on those kind of stretch handoff plays, right and left. All right. I thought the linemen did a tremendous job getting downfield on those plays where it was necessary. Especially the cowboy back, how they drew up that screenplay, that design is fantastic. That's going to be, I think that's going to be if my gut tells me the way that play is drawn up, that they're going to use that to do so many other things. Okay, they're going to use that to create so many other opportunities, because the basic design of that is really, really, really good. Really good. Okay. Just tremendous. I mean, and that's to me, that's the difference right there. It's the blocking schemes. Okay. How do we get guys? Two things to me that are I can't wait for Tape Doesn't Lie and hear them break this down. I want to hear Adam Lunt. No offense to you, Michael Geff. You're Johnny Carson's sidekick, for crying out loud. Ed. Can't think of the last name. But you're a tremendous sidekick. The show would not be the same without you there. Love you to death. And you have your own insights. That's good. But I can't wait to hear Adam Lunt break down the blocking schemes and the route trees. Okay? Two things there. Number one, blocking schemes. How do we get guys in position to block when we're running plays that are not straightforward, right? If you're running downhill, your schemes are pretty straightforward. You're either blocking right down on somebody, or you're a little block and then you're going second level, going to the next level, right? Maybe you have pulls. Okay, so there was some pulling going on, but those are fairly straightforward. It's how do you deal with those plays where you're getting out wide, you're getting out into space, and the offensive linemen need to get out into that space and get downfield in that space, and the cowboy backs included. And I just thought the schemes were fantastic to it, where they were on Tylan Wallace's touchdown. Was it Wilson? Was it Johnny Wilson who 70? I thought it was 73, and I can't remember who the numbers are now. But he's one of the linemen was blocking a dude down by the pylon that Wallace cut inside and went in for his touchdown. It wasn't a great necessary block, but the dude was the farthest guy downfield blocking. All right. So I cannot wait for the guys to start to really, gel in live game situations with that stuff. I think that's fantastic. The second part of that is the route trees. Okay. And a lot of that's Casey Dunn, right? But a lot of that goes into the offensive coordinator also. And I was never a huge fan of the route trees Oklahoma State was running in the Mike Yursich offense. All right. I always felt like you were running guys into the same places, that, if you design your route trees correctly, what you're doing is you're pulling a secondary apart. You're forcing openings, right? You're creating space with your route trees. Space, confusion, conflict. And I thought, I thought the route trees were last night were fantastic. Again, my note is this: Spencer Sanders wasn't going through progressions necessarily because he didn't have to, right? How many times, go back and look at his completions, okay? How many times he threw the ball into a double coverage scenario? I don't remember. Maybe there was. I don't remember. Because it seemed like every time he hit a dude, the dude was one-on-one with somebody. Okay? That you chalk up to play design. Okay? That is play design. That's the route trees. Okay? Last but not least, and we're going to go back to a sore subject here, but defense. The strength of this defense was supposed to be the cornerbacks. Okay? Those two characters got lathered last night. I'm sorry, but they got lathered. Safeties were not great. Gave up some plays. I thought the front, like 5 to 7 guys, those, linemen and a couple of the linebackers. Well, I thought a couple of linebackers, Malcolm Rodriguez, put 20 more pounds on that guy. He's your middle linebacker type dude. He's your defensive quarterback for the next couple of years. That guy, I want 20 of that guy. Okay. He was in right places, right times. He's, sticks his nose in there for a little guy. He was, come on. But I thought the defensive line showed me that they will improve. The defensive line will get better. Okay. The lack of pressure was concerning. I mean, again, Oregon State's offense is not a cupcake offense, but Oregon State's offensive line's not great. And I would have expected maybe a little more pressure, but I mean, they got some pressure a few occasions, but they struggled to do it. But I mean, what I saw from the defensive line is okay. I could see that that's going to get better. All right, they're big enough. They're young, but they're big enough. There's size there. So I think that will. I think they'll. I'm not like, oh my God, the defensive line sucks. Linebacker wise, you only got 2-3 of them on the field. Those type of guys that play. I was okay with them. I thought they played overall pretty well, but the secondary, good God, guys, come on. I mean, I'll give the Oregon State quarterback some credit, right? And this wide receiver Hodgins, Jesus, that guy's gonna make some money. He's cashing checks in the NFL. He ran some routes. He turned Rodarius Williams around. Like that was incredible. But those guys, the touchdown they made at the end of the first half, and that's what I want to get into right here. Number one, there were, no turnovers, but man, they were close to. So Peel's he's got to pick that pass off. You got to catch that there in the second half. Guy threw it right into the coverage. You read it, you stepped, you jumped it, and you got to catch that. And then you were just, that guy should have got his hands more under the ball. That one that just hit the ground there in the second half. It got tipped. So, defensive line tipped some balls. That was good. But so the no turnover thing, okay, doesn't make me crazy in that game. There were a couple opportunities. I'm a little disappointed that, the ball didn't get on the ground. I think it did get on the ground that one time on that pass that they called complete. But I'll wait and see on that. But I don't care that touchdown that was scored at the end of the game with the subs in, whatever. I don't care about that. The touchdown on the starting drive. Okay. I don't like that so much, but okay. First drive of the year against an adequate offense that's got a scripted drive, with some they've got talent. Okay, fine. You're getting your feel of the game. You're getting your feel of the opponent. I wouldn't want to see them giving up TDs on opening drives like that all season. But that one I can kind of live with that. The drive that made me want to put my foot through the TV was the one at the end of the first half. Okay. You go down, you score. I was texting with Dalton, that I wanted to see one more TD. You had plenty of time, and they went down and scored a TD. And you're like, good. 31-10. There you have it. We're good. And then you let them go back down the field in less than 2 minutes, and it wasn't difficult. And there were obviously, the plays that really bothered me were more or less passing plays, giving up 3rd and longs. Gundy mentioned it. Just come on. But the play they scored the touchdown on, somebody jumped on. Who was it? Hang on here a second. Who was? Let's see what we got here. It was AJ Green and AJ Green and number 24. I'm trying to think of who number 24 is. Who was 24? Come on. Can't operate with technology here. Roster. Okay, let's go with 24 was Jarek Bernard. Okay. So yeah, Jarek. So you had 2 wide receivers lined up out to the left. Okay. AJ Green set up on the outside receiver. Jarek Bernard set up on the inside receiver. At that instant, right there, because remember, there's no penalty for that pick. If they run a little bit of a rub or pick play, there's no penalty if it's within a yard of the line of scrimmage. Okay, there's no penalty for that. So the minute those 2 guys line up out there, they're either going to run a rub to the inside or a rub to the outside. Come on. You know that play's coming. All right. You've got them covered if they go in on you, but you've got to have your radar up for that. All right. And they ran a rub to the outside. Okay. So the outside receiver kind of slowly worked his way on a little bit of a slant, but not an aggressive slant. And it's like the minute he's doing a little bit of that, it's happening. All right. Well, Bernard stayed put, which I personally, and somebody who maybe knows this better could correct me, but I have no problem with what Bernard did. He stayed put, and that guy was clearly coming in, but AJ Green should have stepped out. It's almost like jumping a double team in basketball. AJ Green should have jumped that guy. They should have seen it and jumped it, right? You had plenty of time to react to that. AJ Green just floated with the dude. You can't expect the inside defender to climb over. Okay, that's a bad, because now you're chasing. Okay, no different than picks in basketball. If you're going to chase the pick, right, then you've got to get over the pick first, like before the pick happens. You've got to feel the pick. Somebody calls the pick, and you have to step over the pick before the other offensive player has the opportunity to work the pick. Okay. And you're still vulnerable if you step over, right? If you step over, the guy cuts the other way. So the best move in that situation is some type of a switch. And you have plenty of time to do it. Okay. It's not like, it's split second. You don't know plenty of time to do it. And AJ Green sat on his man when he should have jumped out. He should have jumped that. Okay. Should have jumped it. I thought overall, AJ Green and Rodarius Williams, for the 2 guys that everybody's saying, these dudes are the cornerstone of our defense. This is going to be a strength of our defense. These guys are all Big 12 dudes. I thought they had an absolutely shit football game. Okay. Terrible game. Okay. Awful game. And again, too, if they're that good, I want those guys playing press coverage more. I want those guys challenging those wide receivers. Don't let them get out in their routes. If you got a guy like Hodgins, who's a great route runner, I mean, the dude put on a clinic last night. Get up in his face and disrupt his ability to run the route. Don't let a good receiver get you turned around, right? Good receiver gets you turned around, you're toast. You're toast. You see it all the time. Okay. But that, for me, even though Oregon State's offense is a serviceable offense, they put up points last year. Just not okay. Not okay, Jim Knowles. That's got to change. And you're not really going to know how much anything's happening until you get to the Texas game. Really. I mean, Tulsa's offense did not. I mean, look, if Tulsa runs up and down the field on us and puts up 30, we're in deep shit, boys and girls. Deep trouble. That is not going to be good. So we got to see something different out of the secondary. Okay. I think the front six, seven, you got a chance there. That group, I think, I can see how that's going to improve, and they'll be, that'll be a solid part of the defense, or should be. But the secondary, that was atrocious last night. Atrocious. Giving up 3rd and longs, and that drive before the half was just, come on, guys, that you can't do that. All right. That was the end of the Baylor game last year. It's like you have a chance to walk out of the first half 31-10 and you're getting the ball to start the second half. Think about that. 31-10, you start the second half, go down, score a touchdown. 38-10. This is sit back and relax time, right? Instead, you remained in a scenario where you stood, be quiet, Alexa. Instead, you ended up in a scenario where you were constantly trying to maintain a 2+ possession that they could score against your defense. That's not how you want to play in the Big 12. You need to be able, teams like K-State, Kansas, even TCU, based on what I saw last year and going into this year, those are the types of teams that if you can get 3-and-outs or get punts, give it back to an offense that's capable of scoring, you got to do that. Now they had 3 straight 3-and-outs. All right. And that's what opened the game up. But you're going to have situations this year where you're going to have 3 straight 3-and-outs where you're playing, Texas, or you're playing Iowa State, or you're playing TCU, where your offense isn't just going to take the ball, go down, score. They're going to struggle. They're going to have to punt it back, or, they're going to turn it over. So you can't give up that drive. Okay. You just can't give up that drive. So at the end of the day, a good start. Okay. But there's definitely, offense you look at and you go, okay, we've got something to work with here. Defense, like, what the hell? That didn't look any different than last year, right? Offense, that looked different than last year. Okay. Defense, that didn't look different than last year. So that's kind of where I'm at. Next week, you got the subs, second, third teamers going to get a lot of action, you hope. Get through that game injury-free. McNeese State, what's that? It's an ESPN plus 7 o'clock. ESPN plus 7 o'clock game. Eastern time, I think. Eastern time? Yeah. 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. So enjoy that. I'll be at a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah party, watching on my phone probably. Or maybe I'll sneak the iPad in, or maybe wherever they're doing it, there'll be a TV. Oh no, I think they're going on oh crap. They're going on a boat. Take us out on like a little cruise in Long Island Sound. We may not have any cell reception, so we'll see what happens. But you don't say a week off, but next week's a chance to fine tune, let the second, third teamers do most of the work, get out of it injury free, continue to develop, and then you got Tulsa afternoon game, 3:30 start on the 14th. That'll be an ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. They'll decide at the regional type of podcast, and that'll be the next time we can look and say, hey, what do we have before we start Big 12 play. So whoever travel safe. Let's not do that again. Let's not go to the West Coast if we don't have to. Oh my God. That was horrendous. I've got a nap in my future. My eyes are definitely burning a little bit, but I've got a nap in my future this afternoon. Please. So everybody have a good week. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Be safe out there. Enjoy family and friends. Enjoy the short week next week and week one for OSU in the books. Enjoy the other Big 12 action this weekend. Looking forward to it. Go Pokes.